Previously, we saw how Inuyashiki and Hiro gained their new abilities after an alien invasion. Inuyashiki used his powers for saving lives, while Hiro used his for killing people. He eventually stopped his spree after he saved his mom from cancer, but then the cops arrived to arrest him. Now let's continue. The cops get a bit too aggressive with Hiro as his mom begs them to stop. He cannot bear to see her like this and escapes from the scene. Now that his name has been exposed, the news spreads all over the city and Hiro's family has been brought to shame. He has nowhere to go now, but Shion and her grandmother offer him shelter from the law. Shion still believes him to be innocent and tells him that her parents died of cancer a while ago. During his stay, Hiro wonders if he should kill them as well, but decides against it. Meanwhile, Ando helps Inuyashiki access his tech powers by testing his communication facilities the same way Hiro had shown him earlier. Inuyashiki eventually manages to communicate with Ando in space, and he manages to avoid an awkward encounter with an astronaut after that. Later, Hiro breaks down in tears after he watches his mom apologizing on TV. She gets abused by people online, and Hiro witnesses all of this in silence. It gets even worse when he comes across news that his mother has committed suicide due to the public hate and harassment. Hiro blasts off into the sky and screams in frustration as he has lost the only person he has ever loved. He goes back to his killing ways when he visits his father's house and savagely kills a bunch of reporters without mercy. Then he proceeds to track down the person who leaked his mother's address to the public. After torturing him for a bit, Hiro kills the culprit simply by shooting him through his computer screen. He doesn't stop there as he proceeds to murder everyone who made fun of his mother. After his killing spree, Hiro comes back to Shion and goes to bed but is unable to sleep. Instead, he thinks back to the time when he saw a man committing suicide in front of him. At school, Shion listens to people talking about Hiro's actions and goes to meet him later at night to ease his conscience. She tells Hiro that she still believes in him, but then he reveals that he is actually the killer that everyone is talking about. He goes on to say that he died after the night in the park and is an unfeeling machine now. He also talks about his sadistic tendencies and proves that he can't bleed when he breaks a blade by pushing it into his skin. Shion remains in denial, even as he shows her his thrusters, and then he takes her out into the sky for a little trip. He thinks about dropping her to the ground, but she begs him to stay with her and her grandmother instead of fearing for her life. Shion also expresses sadness over the lives that Hiro has taken, and it makes him feel for her. He promises to save as many lives as he can, and they hug after that. Now we see a cancer patient named Nakao who is counting down her last days as she has nothing more to look forward to. She cries out loud saying that she wants to live, and that's when Hiro shows up to cure her. Shion accompanies Hiro as they go around saving as many people as they can, and Shion is pleased with his efforts as he continues to heal people even in distant cities. 2 months pass by like this, and people seem to have forgotten about Hiro in the wake of the recent miracles. Hiro and Shion also bond a lot during this time, and they start to develop feelings for each other. Unfortunately, one night, the cops manage to track him down and break into Shion's home. A massive shootout follows, and even though Hiro remains unharmed, he notices that Shion and her grandmother have been fatally wounded. He takes their bodies and escapes, after which he apologizes to them both and heals them using his powers. Feeling devastated over what has just happened, Hiro once again decides to abandon his humanity. Meanwhile, the news channels talk about a large meteor that is nearing Earth and can cause catastrophic damage, even if it barely scratches the surface. Inuyashiki asks Ando how Marie is during school, but he doesn't know much about her, so they continue with their training instead. This time, Ando makes Inuyashiki focus on controlling vehicles. Marie notices them together and begins to suspect the nature of their relationship, so she starts stalking them. After spying on them on the hospital, Marie finds out that her father is indeed the mystery healer that everyone's been talking about. Later at home, Marie and her mom discuss her low grades. She reveals that she wants to write manga comics instead of going to college, and it stirs a debate between them. Inuyashiki shows up in the middle of this conversation and is told about what's going on. Instead of criticizing Marie, he extends his support toward her, but only if she promises to pass all her upcoming school exams. This makes her very happy and she gets to studying soon after. Later, Shion and her grandmom are shown to have shifted into a smaller house, and Hiro transfers some stolen money into their account, but they don't use it. Now Hiro visits a police station and kills everyone inside apart from one officer whom he taunts for having such a strong sense of morality. However, as he gets out of the station, Hiro notices that an entire task force is waiting for him. They unleash all their firepower on him, and after an excessive display of bullets, Hiro falls to the ground, but then his defense mechanism activates and goes on to kill everyone around him. Hiro awakens after some time and casually leaves the spot without a care in the world. The news of this encounter spreads all over the city and creates polarizing opinions. While a huge majority of people hate Hiro and want him dead, there are other people who are praising him and have even started fan clubs for him. During this time, Hiro goes underground and doesn't even respond to Ando, thus forcing our heroes to patiently wait for his next move. Suddenly, one day, Hiro decides to carry out a public broadcast in the city of Shinjuku, where he openly declares war on the country of Japan and vows to kill everyone because he will not know peace until they are dead. He begins his mission by tapping into people's smartphones and killing them through the screens, just as he had done earlier with the online abusers. The public remains clueless about what is happening, and things get worse when he kills a TV presenter on live television. Ando starts to panic, and then he eventually finds out how Hiro is doing this. He immediately calls Inuyashiki and makes him use his powers to hack into Hiro's signal. He makes use of this opportunity to warn everyone in Shinjuku to discard their phones. It works out for a bit, but then Hiro catches on to Ando and switches to all the screens present in every corner of the city. He resumes his murder spree after that and manages to kill a total of 100 people in only 30 minutes. Hiro reveals that this was just a test run, and he will get serious from the next day by killing at least 1,000 people each day. Later, Hiro meets Shion and tells her that he wants to kill everyone in Japan so that they can finally be with each other and live together. However, Shion begs him to stop killing and refuses to have anything to do with him despite him begging her to stay. The next day, Mari and her friend go to the observation deck to hang out and get some dog treats for Hanako. Unfortunately, Hiro has nothing to live for anymore, so he takes control of an airplane and crashes it into the city of Tokyo. He doesn't stop there and continues to crash multiple planes into buildings, one of them being the observation deck where Mari is located. Inuyashiki witnesses the destruction Hiro is causing and does his best to reduce the damage by redirecting some planes to safe landing spots. He gets a call from Mari, who tells him that the deck is filling up with smoke after the plane crash and she can't escape. Before Inuyashiki can go save her, Hiro confronts him and learns that he was there with him at the park when the incident happened. After a brief discussion, Inuyashiki tells Hiro that he feels human only after he saves lives, and this makes Hiro realize that he is the villain of his own story. Inuyashiki begs him to let him go save his daughter, but then Hiro attacks him with all his powers. They engage in a fierce battle, but both of them are evenly matched, so it ends up turning into a chase. Mari starts to run out of time as Inuyashiki tries his best to make it to the deck. She eventually loses hope and calls her father to tell him she loves him. This forces Inuyashiki to activate all his weapons to tackle Hiro. After a lengthy battle, the both of them pass out and their defense systems activate to battle each other. Inuyashiki eventually wins and proceeds to incapacitate Hiro by taking out his arms. He rushes to save Mari, but she appears to have died, and Inuyashiki does his best to revive her. After a long, painful sequence, she reawakens and he heals her completely. Inuyashiki brings Mari to safety, after which he goes to save the other victims inside the building. Once he's done with that, he proceeds to heal as many victims as he can, despite having a huge task ahead of him. Meanwhile, some girls find Hiro's body and reawaken him with a pack of juice. Now Inuyashiki returns to his family and reveals his true body to them. Despite his reservations, they accept him after he is able to recall intimate memories. Ando comes back home to see Hiro waiting for him. Hiro says he just wants to chill and read manga, but Ando calls Inuyashiki immediately. Hiro runs away as he doesn't have arms anymore, and then listens in on everyone who hates him. Later, Inuyashiki and his son talk about the value of life on their way home. The next day, it turns out that the asteroid is on a collision course and will destroy Earth very soon. This causes panic and Inuyashiki decides to try and stop the meteor all by himself. He loads up on water and is about to leave, but Mary begs him not to go. The rest of his family and Hanako also wake up and rush towards him, but he flies away as he cannot bear such an emotional farewell. Inuyashiki reaches the asteroid and uses his full powers, but only manages to cause a little damage. He loses hope, but then Hiro arrives and says that he can change the asteroid's path if Inuyashiki presses his self-destruct button. Inuyashiki agrees to it after Hiro reveals that he also wants to save people such as Shion and Ando. Unfortunately, his detonation isn't enough to make a difference, and Inuyashiki figures that he must also do the same to save the world. His entire family and Ando break down into tears when they realize he's gone. Later, we see that Mari has won a manga contest. And that was part 2 of Inuyashiki. Please like, share, and subscribe if you want to keep up with all my latest videos. Bye for now.